Welcome to the Briar combo guide. To get right into this, we're going to start with her spells. Her passive is a bleed, so that's a damage over time effect that deals more based on how many stacks you do. It goes up to 5 stacks, and it lasts for 5 seconds, so that's pretty good. And then it heals Briar based on some of the damage that you deal, and she just flat out gets increased healing just based on the fact that she has this passive, because she has no base health regen. So you can see I'm at 1207 health. Other champions would have, like 1 health per second. Well, Briar doesn't get that, and her abilities cost 5% of her current health to cast. Briar's Cube is pretty straightforward. It's a point and click stun. It deals damage. It scales with AP and AD, and it reduces their armor and MR, and that scales from 10% to 20. Reduces the cooldown, deals more damage, and here's what it looks like. Boom! So within this range, this circle here, when you hover over your mouse, you can see that you can hop to an enemy and stun them, and that actually comes up pretty important. But that's not the only thing that it does. You actually can hop to your teammates too for a quick getaway. If that's what you're trying to do, you can hop to the crab, you can hop to Ripped Herald, you can hop to this little fruit that heals you. And what about this one that gets vision? And what about this one that pops you up? Yep. Briar's Q is very good and can hop to stuff. Now, you can't hop to turrets, of course. Riot Games, please add that. But yeah, it's a very good spell. Point click CC is very good. And it's an evasion maneuver, and you can do little word hop with Lee Sin too. So Briar's W is basically her identity spell. This is the one that everyone's going to be talking about. If it makes her bad or good, it doesn't matter. Here's what it does. So once you click the button, you will dash, and then you will enter a blood frenzied state where you're going to be self-taunted towards enemies. Your auto attacks deal AoE damage, so you see that's not a bug. We're actually hitting both of them. And it's that little circle around it. It'll give you attack speed, movement speed, it'll do the AoE, and you are self-haunted. So I can click W, and I can't right-click away to turn her around. She's going to do this. And then you have the second one. You can see that button changed. That's snack attack. That'll empower your next auto attack to deal extra execute damage, which is missing health damage. So the lower they are, the more you'll deal. And then you heal for a percentage based off that. And it's that giant chomp right there. Briar's E is Chilling Scream. That's what allows her to kind of make decisions, because you can see if you're in W, you use your E, it ends it. Wow, how awesome is that? So you do have options with these things, but you have to play around with its cooldown because it is 16 seconds. But past that, it is this giant magic damage channeling. And if any enemy or anything is in that, it's going to push it. Woo! But it only does that push if you full charge it. If you don't, then it's just going to be a little blast. But that little blast might not do a lot of damage, but it does slow for 80% for 0.5 seconds. So there's sometimes when you're running away, if you just hit them with a little tap E, they would be slowed down. And most of the time you will be just using this to try and put enemies into the wall. And if it misses, you'll be upset, but when it hits, you're going to be very happy. Briar's Ultimate is another one of our identity spells, and you will kick this red Hemolith gemstone at an enemy champion across the map. So if you look at my minimap, it'll show you the range of it. It is huge. So if I'm in my base, I can go to their red buff, okay? And if I'm in the middle of the map, I can go anywhere, just the full map, okay? So the range is very huge. If you hit any enemy champion, only enemy champions, you will fly towards them. You will not only fly towards them, but you'll have an empowered frenzied state. So not only do we have the regular frenzy with the attack speed and the AoE autos and so on, but we'll get armor, magic resist, lifesteal, and an additional amount of movement speed. So you get everything that you're used to, plus a little more, and then it deals a bunch of magic damage to everyone else that's into it. And lastly, it'll fear them, so every target that isn't the one that you hit will be running away from her. So it kind of frees you up to take your 1v1, and you'll notice that my frenzy bar isn't going down like when we were in W, right? That's because this does not end until they die or you cast E. So again, E is the thing that cancels these frenzies, but if you choose not to, you can do whatever you want. And just to show you how serious I am, I'm going to teleport Briar back to my base, and you'll see. Look at her, look at her. Where's she going? Follow this white line straight to your target. You have the line telling you exactly where you're going, and yeah, this is not going to end. Now, you do keep vision on them, but not only do you keep vision on them, if this champion were to go invisible, it gives true sight. So this is how you deal with invis champs, because you'll likely learn soon that, well, this Briar W, although she is trying to consume blood, that's her canonical thing, right? She can't do that if they're invis. So you have to have some sort of counterplay to that, and that's what your ultimate does. Now we're going to get right into combos, and the first thing that you need to know is how attack speed works. So attack speed is the rate in which you attack, right? So when you auto attack, you will have to wait, and then you'll attack again after the brief downtime. That's what attack speed does. It tries to speed up that exact thing. Well, why does that matter for Briar? So your first combo is WQ. So you're going to dash forward, and then you're going to dash towards the enemy. You're going to stun them, and then you're going to start wailing on them until it's time to hit W2. Now remember, you only have snack attack during the 5 seconds of your W, so don't forget to cast it. But how can we improve upon that? By knowing what attack speed does? Well, there's some spells in the game that are auto attack resets. So that means that you can reset that timer between this and this, right? See how slow and clunky that is? Your Q is an auto attack reset. So if I auto attack, then Q, and then auto attack, it's way faster. You can see that was way faster. Some things are that, and Briar's W2 is also one. So once I get an auto attack, I can at any time just hit W, boom, boom, right? So W2 isn't going to automatically cast. You have to cast it, so it's best to use it after an auto attack. That way you don't have to wait for the next one. Well, now let's cover how WQ can be improved upon, or what's the different variation of it. So WQ obviously just does the most of covering distance. So we're going to cancel that with E, and I'm going to show you how you can improve upon it. If you are close enough to the enemy, you don't want to just WQ onto them like this, right? Because then you'd be missing out on damage. Why are you missing out on damage? Because if I just W, and then I auto attack, then Q, now we can get an extra auto attack before we Q, right? So instead of W, then Q, and then you start auto attacking, you W, get an auto attack, then Q, and that reset it, so then you get your next one even faster. So it's based on how close you are to the enemy. If I'm very far from the enemy, I want to start fighting ASAP because I'm on a 5-second timer to deal my damage. But in a time that the enemy happens to be close enough to get a whooping, right, we're going to slide over this wall, we're going to use our Q, and we're going to deal more damage this way, and it's a super, really big tip that a lot of people forget about. This is more of a general tip for your combos. So your Q, it reduces their armor and magic resist for 5 seconds. Your W lasts for 5 seconds. So whichever one you cast first, right, will get the most value. So with I W and then I Q, now I know that the rest of this W has the armor pen for my W2, right, which is good. But if I do something like auto Q, auto W, well then I have to use my W2 a little bit early because that armor pen's going to run out. So a lot of the time I see you guys try to do technically efficient things, which are using all your auto attack resets, but Briar bypasses some league standard rules where, like, hey, you know, if I ever have an auto attack reset, I want to make sure that I'm using it. But Briar kind of bypasses that one with the exact example of your W lasts for 5 seconds, and W2 is your most damaging spell, so you need to be making sure that it is as pumped as possible. So you should always, instead of doing something like auto Q, auto W into, auto Q, auto W, you know, and then trying to time the W2 as if you can be staring at that nonstop, it's pretty unrealistic. Just stick with W auto Q. It's a standard for people that have played other champions. Maybe you would think of that like it has a value, and I'm here to say that it is less valuable because that is something that a lot of people do ask about. Now I'm going to set up a situation for you. So this is one of the more weird ones where you have to remember that your E cancels your W. So if you're ever going to be in a compromised position, then you likely want your E so that you can use it to get the enemies away so you can run away. Let's take a moment and acknowledge the fact this does a ton of damage. It is a very risky spell in that way because you have no way to cancel Frenzy afterwards. So in the world that I used E and then I missed it and then I W'd towards an enemy, and let's say that enemy started walking under turret, well now I have no way to cancel this, right? And life's gonna suck. So you have to wager if it's worth to use it for a ton of damage if you can basically kill this target without having to get near this turret or towards their team, whatever it is. So if my team was fighting right here, right? So this is my mid laner, this is theirs. If I was in this bush and I saw their team walk around here and enter this bush, I could just full charge E, take the stun, and then once the stun was about to run out, I use my other stun, and then we W2 at the end of this combo to deal max damage. So this is something that, again, it's high risk, but it's high reward. So you just have to know the situation a little bit better than maybe you currently do, where, like, you know, does the enemy have a teleport-like spell where they can get over this wall? And if so, do I want to change my combo and make sure that there's no gap in my CC, my crowd control, right, my stuns, to not let them over this wall in the first place. So things like that matter a ton, and E into W matters a lot for your one-shots, but you also have to know that there is risk to it. Now, E buffered auto is kind of like abusing league mechanics a little bit. I wouldn't say there's much of a combo, but it's more of a button press and then a mouse click. But there are times to get a lot of value out of it where your E pushes people away. Well, let's say it's just hitting someone away. Likely, if you're not inputting anything, you just push them away. But you can actually mash right click and get an extra auto onto this target, so you can see. I can do that. Go onto this target, so you can see. And now I pushed him, and you can see my PTA, my rune has procced because I got an auto attack. Now, that's a minor damage gain, but there are times where one auto is the difference, and it's worth maybe throwing this out there. It's worth at least knowing that it exists. Now I'm going to throw you right into some of the more advanced combos, because that is a lot of your gameplay loop, is that you will be seeing someone trolling. You're going to W towards them. If you're on the wrong person, maybe you throw a Q to another person. Again, you're just going to auto attack the closest target, so people are going to try and mess with you, but most of the time enemies aren't good enough to pull that off. Even in Challenger, like, they know that it exists, but to get away from their basic game plan of do everything that I need to do, they're not really thinking as a team as much. Either way, tangent. Let's get on to fast combo. So fast combo is one that implies that you know a little bit about your W. So when you W, right, you have snack attack. Well, if you cast R during your W, you're going to lose the ability to W2. So if I W1, you see, I can mash W, and we don't get it. So that sucks, and you don't want that, right? So a lot of the time you're trying to find a way that you can get that W2 off and still hit your ultimate, because again, right, hitting ultimate is a free 1v1. So I invented this combo really quick, which is W1, Q, and auto attack W2. Now, press the attack is one of Briar's best runes, but if this gets taken out of the game, then take this with a grain of salt. But it's still efficiently true, so pay attention. So what is press the attack? Press the attack is a rune that when you auto attack something 3 times, you proc a big chunk of damage, and then you get 8% extra damage. Well, that's really cool. That's really cool and awesome. How does that work? Well, Briar's Q actually counts as 1, right? Which is really cool. It counts as an auto attack. Not every champion has one of those. So it implies that if you auto attack, you Q, and then you W2, which we don't want to lose, you proc this thing, and that 8% damage buff doesn't stop until you leave combat. So you go into your ultimate with all these extra stats plus 8% damage. How cool is that? So if you W1, Q, auto attack W2, then you can get PTA proc, you can get your W2 amped, and then you get your ultimate hit. So I'm going to do it really fast. This would be something that you would do in a solo lane or literally anywhere, even if you were jungle. As long as you knew that hitting ultimate was going to kill the enemy, this is what you do, implying that you needed to. So WQ, auto attack W2, and then ultimate. And what's important about this is the fact that you're trying to utilize this 0.85 second stun as much as possible. Now, your Briar ult actually takes a second to cast, so the faster that you get the W2 out, right, you can start casting this thing. Now, it's pretty girthy, okay? It's pretty girthy, so even if they move a little bit, you can see, a little bit of a juke here or there. You have a little bit of wiggle room. So this is my confirmed 1v1 combo. That's called fast combo. So again, W, Q, auto attack W2, boom. And try and pay attention to the CC bar. And the CC bar, the crowd control bar, is at the top. You see that? So that's what we're trying to look at here. So I'm going to do it one more time for you. WQ, W2E. I feel like we messed it up because of this, so sorry. Let's fix that for you. So now we have no auto refresh cooldowns. Things are what they are. So we will go WQ, W2E. And then we're there. And we actually did too fast, but you're getting the point here. Let's try it one more time just for the fans. Wait for our rune. WQ, auto attack W2E. Boom. Boom. And now you're there, right? So you've used your cooldowns. You got your W2. Used your ultimate. This person is completely dead, and you still have your E to get out of this. Woohoo! Now let's talk about Demon Combo. Demon Combo is a combo that I came up with really early on into Briar because I was like, I'm getting tired of her team fights being weak because I can only get onto one champion, and then my ultimate, sure, it has the fear, but I want a little more. So when you're playing team fights, obviously people are going to get, more all in one place, and when that happens, if you find that 2 people are walking into this bush, let's say you hit an E, and then you shoot ultimate into that, well, you see they're stunned, your ult hit while they were stunned, so they can't flash, and then you confirm the fear onto 2 targets. Now that is sick, right? That is awesome. So if you ever find yourself in a situation that you just hit a huge get in the wall E, feel free to carry that team fight by clicking ultimate, and you confirm the fear on everyone that's not your original target, which is practically team fight winning because you, again, hit your E. This spell does insane damage by itself. You confirm your ultimate, which confirms a 1v1 kill and a fear for your team to work with. I mean, you get to do a lot of stuff. So Demon Combo is something you can also do it in 1v1, right? Like, oh my god, I'm 1v1 right now. I just hit that guy with a stun. Now I confirmed the spell that makes me win the 1v1. Not enough people are utilizing this. This is something that I use all the time, and it is quite the difference maker. Now this one's just mini demon combo. It's just the idea that if you're out of spells, let's say you did something like this where you W'd towards someone, realized that you couldn't win the fight, and then you E'd them, and they didn't go into the wall, you can just do a Q ultimate, right? Like that. And, you know, it's a way to get out of a sticky situation sometimes. There'll be a lot of times in League where you're questioning if you win a 1v1 or you don't. So if you find yourself like, oh, I'm going towards this guy. Whoa, I'm scared. And let's say this didn't hit the wall. You could just hit a QR right there. And, again, this is 0.85 second stun. While this is a 1 to 1.1 second cast, so it's not confirmed, but 0.25-ish to work with. If they just try to right click, they're going to get hit, and again, that's confirming another 1v1. And that's pretty much all of our combos. A lot of them are pretty simple, but again, they do have a lot of variance to them, and it's a lot of auto attack resets and being very aware of how you're sequencing your spells in that way. But we can talk about items, because items add so much to Briar, and you really have to know that they're there before, because if you try and do it on the fly, sometimes you're going to get yourself caught up. So let's talk about Titanic first. Again, this is a rune interaction, but there will always be runes in League, so it's always worth knowing. So this button is an auto attack reset. Not every single one is, but this one is. So the cool thing about that is that you can do something like this. So we talked about PTA, right? Press the attack. After hitting 3 consecutive attacks, you will deal a bunch of damage and get your 8% damage buff. So I can auto Q auto, which is cool, right? But what if my Q's on cooldown? And what if I had to Q this guy, but I need to hit this one? So I could do that, right? I could slide a little Q here, and then I could auto Titanic and then auto. Now it's not as fast, but Titanic itself is an auto attack reset. Now it's not going to make your third auto faster, but you get to the second one faster. Does that make sense? So auto Q auto, and then auto Titanic auto. It's all both of those are all faster than this. Boom, boom, boom. Right. So try and get away from that. And lethal tempo is a rune that after 6 auto attacks, you start dealing extra damage. So that's a way to get faster to that payout, because now you can add on to your combos, right? So I'm going to do W auto Q, auto Titanic, auto W2, right? So it's all about, you know, auto attack resets are all about letting Briar do her auto attack and then you inputting your spell. So W, auto Q, auto Titanic, auto W2. And that itself could be like a 4-minute video. I'm just going to let you figure out those combos because, you know, sometimes you need to realize that you're really just trying to get the enemy into W2 range so that W2 can hurry up and end them, and then you can go on about your day because now they're dead and you're not going to run anywhere else probably if they're already dead, or you're going to get to the next target, which is good. So sometimes you need to do W auto Q auto Titanic W2 and then E. That's a really good fast chunk, and I know if you're new to the game, you just got to try your best. Again, man, you're just building up on what you already know. So, again, I know it's really fast. Slow the video down if you got... I'm kidding. So you can, you know, just add on another auto attack reset before the W2. So you have, you know, W, auto attack Q, auto attack Titanic, right? It's all about you trying to deal damage as efficiently as possible, and that's what this is about. So you have many different routes about how many autos that you need before W2. So WQ auto Titanic W2, right? That's a really fast one, but you don't get as many regular auto attacks in there. You also have this one where, like, if this was a giant tank, right? We could just W auto Q auto Titanic, and right at the end, right as the bar is about to end, we're gonna throw that W2 after the last auto attack that we can get. So I want Briar to get as many auto attacks as she can, and then I'm going to wait until I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, I didn't have time for another auto attack to then W2, so it's all about kind of paying attention to that bar. It can really help you a ton. The second super important item is Black Cleaver. This is one of the best bruiser items in the game. Bruisers are someone that wants to be on the front lines dealing damage, but also being like tanky enough to tank damage, right? So Black Cleaver gives you a ton of good stats: auto attack damage, health, and ability haste. Ability haste is cooldown reduction. It reduces how long your cooldowns are. But the passives are what matter most. So dealing physical damage to champions reduces the target's armor by 6% for 6 seconds, and that stacks up to 5 times. Why is that important? Well, because when I auto attack, you can see at the top, boom, 1 little stack. But it goes further than that because we have Briar's passive. This passive deals physical damage. So, when we auto attack, we'll get 1 stack of Black Cleaver. But every time that the passive takes its damage over time, it's going to proc physical damage, and that's going to fully stack this. So if you were to add a bunch of armor to this dummy right here. So we're going to Control-Shift-G, add this. You can see that the more tanky someone gets, the better this item gets. So you have, 100 armor. That means they take half damage. Well, when you auto attack, you're going to watch his armor go down, 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 till it maxes out. This is huge. And the thing to really remember is, yes, auto attacking someone is awesome to get Black Cleaver and passive stacked, but don't forget any Briar ability also works for this. So if you hit a 2-man E, right? Oh, both of them have Black Cleaver fully procced on them. And now you can see more value if you hit an ultimate, right? Because if this ultimate hits, all 3 of these people, Black Cleaver stacking. You can actually see it, this little orange shield icon. And it's one of the best Briar interactions. Black Cleaver reducing their armor is super good. Armor is something that will be bought into almost every time. So that's why this item is one of Briar's best in the game. Next item we're going to talk about is Eclipse. Eclipse in the current day is actually in a pretty weak state, but it is still actually very good. It's a solid item no matter what. It gives you 60 AD, which is usually bruiser items come with around 40, so it's cool. This one has 60, gives you ability haste, and it has a passive hitting an enemy champion with 2 separate attacks or abilities within 2 seconds deals 6% of their total health, their max health, and then grants you a shield. So it's a pretty cool, proc this to get a shield. Now you can fight a little bit better. So if I were to hit with any 2 separate things, auto Q, you get your shield, you deal your damage. That's really cool. It actually has another really cool part to it that, it's not so direct about what counts as attack or ability, because items can make that proc even better. And I forgot to say in the last one, right? Black Cleaver actually dealing physical damage grants 20 movement speed too. For 2 seconds. So as this is proccing, look at the little blue behind me. I get movement speed the whole time, and it's refreshing every time that physical damage procs. But either way, let's talk about Eclipse. So you can notice that if I just use Q here, nothing happens, right? We don't get it. We need our extra auto attack to do the 2. Well, Black Cleaver counts. It counts. So this item that's already insane for you, look at Q now. Boom! As passive procs, it now gives the effect. I assume that's because we're actually proccing an item, and somehow that counts as an ability to some degree. I don't get all this stuff. Now, you'll always be hitting 2 things. If you do any combo as Briar, you're going to be hitting 2 spells, right? WQ, auto, done. So it's not really about struggling to hit 2 things. You always will. But it is really cool to know if you're playing lane Briar that you can just click Q. And it's a decent little poke, man. Not enough people use it. And it procs off any spell. So technically, if you're Eing someone away from you, passive procs gets the Black Cleaver. You get your stack. So Eclipse, again, it's pretty weak right now, but it does have that awesome interaction with Black Cleaver, and it's super worth it. And you can pair it with other things too, where it doesn't fully proc off one button, but you do have Titanic to give you a burst item plus a burst item. We'll get into itemization in the itemization video. But yeah, it's a super awesome item, and it has that cool interaction. Now, League of Legends Shop might scare you, but it's good to know that certain things get locked out, and that's to keep you from making a mistake. You can't really buy two of something anymore. So because this item has a Spellblade passive, you can't do that twice. So you can't buy it, and now it's locked, and that works for armor pen too. So if I buy an armor pen item like Black Cleaver, as you see, right, it reduced their armor. Now I cannot buy Terminus, and now I can't buy Mortal Reminder or Lord Dominic's Regards, right? Because they're all doing the same thing. It locks you out. That's how League is kind of balanced in that way. Okay. So Spellblade is something that Briar can use, and some people are using it incorrectly, and it's important for you to know how it works. So after using an ability, your next auto attack deals 82 extra damage when you use it. So I used a spell, and now you can see my hands are glowing red, and I have this passive indicator that when I auto attack this champion, I'm going to deal extra bit of damage. So you'll see right there, it started at 175, and then Bleed started dealing damage, and regularly I dealt 93. So how can we maximize this? It's by knowing that, well, all of these spells count for that. So how do I get the most out of this item? Well, we have to take standard combos and try and delay them now, because this is on a 1.5 second cooldown. So I would rather, instead of just sending a fast combo like this, right, do as much as you can. If you're going to buy a Spellblade effect, like Trinity Force, you'd want to delay your combo a little bit more to get the value out of your item. So after every spell cast, I'm going to wait 1.5, and you can watch it here. So W, wait for it. Oh, we have a reset thing on. That's been the name of this video, huh? Okay, let's try that again. So I'm going to go to this one now. So I'm going to W. It's going to refresh this. We can even wait it out. So W, wait for it. 1, 2, then Q. 1, 2, then W2. 1, 2, and then E. And that's where that E buffered auto can actually matter too, but you don't have to do it. But so basically the point is, if you're ever building a Spellblade item in your build, it's good to know that you have to delay these casts. You have to be thinking about these casts so that you can get the most out of them. And that is a very big deal with these items. Stridebreaker is another bruiser item that Briar doesn't really build, but she can build. And what it does is it does this cleave circle around you, and it slows enemies, and then you gain movement speed for each one that hits. So when I click this, everyone in the circle, they get slowed a little bit. You can see how they're kind of wound up, and that gave me a bunch of movement speed, which is really cool. How does that work with Briar? Well, you have to just think about delaying a little bit and sequencing your combo in a way. So if you want to, use this and then maybe run up to someone else, maybe you slow down this target so that you can get a better W if you were between them so that you can go to the correct target. That's kind of like the best case scenario. More times than not, you'll be engaging on someone, but you don't want to just instantly slam the button, and this is what I see a lot of people do wrong. So they'll do something like this. Where you're getting all the cooldowns out as soon as possible, right? Which is technically efficient in the way that you're trying to get to cast them again. But you aren't always, able to get a second rotation of your spells, so you need to make sure your first one is better. And how do we do that? So you have to wait for your Q, right? So W auto attack Q. Wait for the Q, then use the Stridebreaker, because now your slow is on them while they actually can move, rather than while they're stunned, where you're wasting, part of that slow. Now, there's still technically 2 more combos, but these use a different rune set. This is Halo Blade. So when you attack an enemy champion, for up to 3 attacks, you're going to have increased attack speed, and then you'll deal an extra bit of true damage. But it does say basic attack resets increase the attack limit by 1, up to 2 times, right? So when we talked about auto Q auto, right, that's an auto attack reset, and that plays into this. So Titanic, also being an auto attack reset, will give you another one. So that's basically what this is saying is, hey, you can do your Q and your Titanic without consuming your up to 3 attacks. So what does that mean? It's a long-winded way to say that you can do 3 auto attacks plus Q plus Titanic all at the increased speed, which is awesome. That way, if there's a world that I were to auto attack someone, start my Halo Blades, and then Q Titanic, I would just have no rune there, and that would suck. So you really don't have to change anything, you just have to be aware of it. So you can do auto Q, auto Titanic, auto, and right there, that was 5 things, right? Auto Q, auto, Titanic, auto. So that was 5 of them. Usually this would be, just 3 hits where, you watch me 1, 2, 3. Wow. Well, this is kind of one of those things that you don't really have to go out of your way to, does auto Q, auto, Titanic, auto look better? It's like, no. Play it like regular, but just be disciplined with your casts enough to do something like, W, auto Q, auto, Titanic, auto, W2, right? Or don't W2 there. Either way, it just lets you extend, and that's why it says percentage of hail attacks landed, and you're going above 100%, because it starts at 3. 3 is 100%, and then the Q and Titanic make it go above that, so, it's just basically knowing that you can get a lot of your combo done with Halo Blades and your Q. Now, a long time ago, I did make a 5 tips and tricks video, and basically I covered that you can extend your W range for a small amount of time if you use your flash, and a lot of people called me very silly for this, and the reality of it is that very often you could basically never use this, but there's technically times that it is efficient, so it's based on how you approach situations like that, where it's like, do I try for this random one-off tech that, might not matter very much, or do I try and learn everything about the champ? So I'll teach you it regardless. So let's say you wanted to approach this person right here that's super far, right? Now, last time I covered this, I used this wall, but let's use this one. So to get to this person, you would think one of 2 things. I can flash to him to then put myself within W range, and then I would run to him, okay? So what does that look like in real time? That probably looks something like this. Pretty fast, right? And that's pretty efficient. You can't really mess it up. technically it is a little bit faster to W flash. So you do something like this, where you W flash yourself into the range, and from the enemy team's POV, it's a lot more scary, it's a lot faster, it's tougher for people to process. People are very used to seeing a Briar W, so when you just do flash W, it's like, okay, they are able to understand what happened so much faster. But if you W flash, you can catch them lacking a little bit more, where you do something like that, and it's just a lot more pop out at your party with the gang type stuff, where you know, it's catching them off guard. It's trying to get a little bit more of tangible value on, like, whoa, what just happened in their head, but also it is like technically a little bit faster. And now we're in the final stretch where I'm basically just going to fully yap for the next little bit about every single thing that I can think about, because why not? So the last thing that I had written down is Sterix versus Spear Visage, but that comes with a working understanding of what Tenacity is. So when you have Tenacity, you can see Sterix Gauge has it, you can see that Endless Hunger has it, right? 20%, 20%, and Merc Treads has the most, 30%. It's a really cool stat. What does it do? Tenacity reduces the duration of stun, slows, taunts, fears, silences, blinds, slave, polymorph, and immobilization. So basically saying that you want Tenacity against teams with a lot of crowd control, that being those spells that do those things. But how do you get that efficiently? Briar's best boot is Plated Steel Cap because it reduces incoming damage from attacks by 10%, and most of the time, almost 90% of the teams that you play against will have more people utilizing attacks for their various forms of damage, and this Plated Steel Cap item is very, very OP, overpowered at dealing with that. So you have a lot of different boot options. They all do different things, and throughout your games you'll figure out them. But Tenacity is one of those things that's like, hey, I really don't want to get stunned and locked down, you know, and then people waste my 5 seconds of W, so I have to do something with that. Well, this item, Sterix Gauge, is an item that comes with health, attack damage, and then Tenacity, and then gives you a giant shield, and that is awesome. Now, you'll learn about builds if you go to my guides or go to any of the stat websites, whatever. I recommend my guides just for Briar stuff because I keep them up to date, but obviously, who wouldn't believe themselves? Anyway. So the way that most people on most champions, if you go play Zinzao, it'll work the same. Your first 2 items are usually pretty static, and then everything else changes to counter enemy teams. So a standard game would be Titanic Hydra because it helps you with your tankiness, and it gives you really good target damage with that auto tech reset. Then you have Black Cleaver. Black Cleaver will likely be second in every single build of Briar's Bruiser variant. And so once you get these, then you'll probably get boots, and then you'll be stuck with this. This would be your core build, and then your other 3 slots will be the things that counter enemy teams. So if we look at the armor tab, then you'll see that in the bruiser or fighter category, these are your armor items. And you'd want to buy the best one to counter. If you hit tab, see enemy team has physical damage champions, then you'd be like, whoa, well this one has a lot of armor, this one's really good. And, oh, they have some magic damage, too. What's the best magic, resist option? And for Briar, that happens to be Spear Visage. Gives you a ton of heals, which works for your whole kit. Health, magic resist, ability haste. Anyway, so that's basically how core builds works is, your core will probably be 2 items plus your boots, and then everything else is to counter enemy team. Guardian Angel is just the best late game item for basically everyone because upon taking lethal damage, restore 50% of your health and 100% of your max mana after 4 seconds of stasis. So if I were to reduce my health to 0 after 4 seconds, I'd come back with half. And that is insanely good because now if I jump into a team fight, they can't really kill me unless they have the ability to stand there 4 seconds and then kill me again. So that gives my team a lot of opportunities. It's a really strong item. But it comes with a pretty weak stat line for 3,200 gold that you basically icing that cake with this. Now, what does this have to do with Sterix? So basically saying that after your core build, right, you'd be like, well, they have a lot of CC, so this would be the time that I get a Tenacity option. And Sterix gives you a giant shield, right? Upon taking damage, that will reduce your health below 30%. Give yourself a 678 damage shield, and obviously that's a ton. And Spirit Visage increases heals and shields by 25%. So now this goes up to 1158, which is crazy. Now, this shield scales with your bonus health. That's the health that you build. So that's not just 25% of that. That's 25% plus what it was already going to give you. So this is a 2-item combo that Briar can utilize to be super tanky, because now you don't get held by, say, CC as much. You get an insane 1,000 damage shield, and you have every stat line basically, right? Over 100 armor, over 100 magic resist, 3,600 health. It is very strong. Now there's a new contender for Tenacity, which is Endless Hunger. Endless Hunger is an aggressive Tenacity item, and it's just flat out a little bit better just across the board. Gives you attack damage, Omni-Vamp, and Physical Vamp, right? Lifesteal is Physical Vamp, so that just means that I will heal when I auto-attack, and Omni-Vamp is I will heal when I auto-attack or when my spells hit. That's what those keywords mean. So you can go Endless Hunger here too, and then if you need magic resist, you go this, and now you're creating builds that are homogenous in that way, and it's a really good thing for you. There's a lot of times that you're going to have to learn these other items. Like, a lot of people are going to be like, well, what about Spear of Shojin? Isn't this good? And most of the time, anything in this category, in the fighter category for Bruiser Briar, will be good. But in League, right, you only have 6 item slots. 1 of them's boots, and 5 of them are your other items. And you're going to want the best one. So sometimes settling for decent and okay options isn't going to be the best. And that's why you're likely not going to see a random favorite item that you might have, depending on how competitive stuff is. Now, if you watch my YouTube channel, obviously, I have a video for every single thing ever Briar made ever. I've been making Briar content for about 3 years now. I've tried basically everything at this point. When new stuff comes out, I hop on the PBE, the public beta environment, where I test things before it even comes to the game. So I try and stay up to date. Obviously, I haven't tried literally everything, because that's, I haven't tried this into this, that, but I've tried most things. And that's basically the consensus, that, I can help you with these niche decisions, but the unfortunate reality is sometimes people fall in love with a favorite item, but then, when they're like, hey, Logan, talk to me about, this plus this. And I'm like, well, it's good. It might not be great, but play what you like. And I will say that there's amount of the game that you being very comfortable with something can make something that is just default good a little bit better, because you're very well versed in it, and that's real. But does it being that little bit better make it better than the great thing? That's kind of all who you are and what you do. But either way, so yeah, Steric's Gauge plus Spear Visage. Spear Visage is Briar's magic resist item. Wit's End is pretty weak on her just because attack speed. She more so likes raw AD a little bit better. Maul Memorius is okay, but it only gives you a magic damage shield, and if you pop this and then get autoed to death, you're going to wish that it was Steric's, and then you could just get Spear Visage, and now you have a magic resist item, and life is really good. It's in the tank category, though, so make sure you know that. So yeah, it's all about just, your core build, and then everything else is kind of to counter or efficiently deal with enemy team. And that's a pretty good way to look at builds. You do technically have some other niche things, and there's a lot more that's not in this video, like sliding E, right? So you should know that if you're holding E and you right click, right, you're not going to move till it's over. Well, what about the world that I have a sliding E, right? Right? Some random things work like that. So this is Hextech Rocket Belt, and it usually just dashes you in a direction and shoots those little missiles. But if you W, then do it, now you can slide with E, and it's really cool. There's a lot of really cool things to Briar that aren't in this video because we're trying to keep it as direct as possible. But Briar is an awesome champion. She's my favorite champion. I play this game for 14 years. She's obviously only came out for 3 of those, so I've been around. I can help you with other things, but regardless, this is your Briar combo guide. Again, there's a few things that aren't in here. They're more like, the needle in the haystack things for you. And, these things actually are going to change based on seasons and item changes and rune changes and nerfs and buffs and stuff like that. But Briar is an awesome champion. definitely worth your grind, and I'm very hopeful that this helps you out. It's now 2:30 a.m. and I'm yapping to you about this. This took way too long for me to make, but hopefully this helps you figure it out. If you're a returning viewer, you already knew all this. Well, I need to give you something that you didn't know about Briar. So actually, off the dome, no editing. Let me think of something that literally no one knows. Well, you might not. I don't know what you don't know, but people are like, why not mana immune? Well, this is landing, attacks, and abilities grants 3 mana. You can't stack this item to get the upgraded version that is your mana, right? So maybe you didn't know that. What's another thing you might not have known? Hexblade is something, gain 30 ultimate ability haste, so just your ultimate gets cooldown reduction. After casting your ultimate, gain attack speed and movement speed. So once you cast ultimate, usually other people don't have a travel time. So you can see Briar's hits. It actually refreshes just for Briar, so she can play this item. That's pretty cool. Look at the little lightning effects. Again, I'm going to keep trying to find you one thing that you do not know. Have you met Ted? Man, what don't you guys know? You guys be knowing stuff. Let's see. She can proc Luden's Echo. Bet you never did that. But yeah, I think this video is coming to a close. Static Shiv. Right, Static Shiv, it procs your on-hit effects, so Hard Seal is an on-hit effect. When this circle fills up, then you can auto-attack, boom! Boom, right? But if you have the static, it would get every single one in that line. Now, unfortunately, I wasted the effect, but wait for the cooldown. Oh yeah, we got time. Trust me, if you already saw this video, it is what it is. So now I have the static thing. All of them. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know any other questions that you have, and I will try and answer every single one.